Hey everyone, so in today's video I'm going to be going over all of the items on Cassante and I will be ranking them. This is my opinion from a high-elo Cassante main. I have around 1,000 games on him and I'm going to express my opinion on all of the items I've seen Cassantes go, and I will be putting them in their respective rank. So, start things off, Sterak's Gauge. I would put this B tier, maybe C tier. I think low B tier. Only reason is I definitely don't think you should go this first, second, third, just because it doesn't give resists and you mainly scale off resists. I would grab it as maybe a 5th or a 6th item if you really need the extra shield, but it's really good since it got buffed. I would put it somewhere in B tier. It's not crazy good, but I think it hovers around the middle for Cassante. So next up is Jak'Sho. I would put this S tier just because it's a very all-rounded, very nice item for Cassante. Gives him resists. You build it early, it gives him everything you want for a scaling champion, or for scalings that Cassante needs. Gets more resists, gets more health, ability haste, everything you need. The active is really good. The only downsides for Jak'Sho is that if you're into a heavy ranged comp, you might not be able to get a really good drain in team fights, just because everyone will be outside your drain range. And it's also, I really only build it for if the enemy comp has 3 or more AP damage. I think if it has only 2 AP, it can be okay, but I think it gets outperformed by other mythics. But in the few cases that there are 3 or more AP champions, or 3 or more melee champions, this is a really nice mythic since you're guaranteed a good drain and you're just going to be very strong and all out. Anathemas, I would put this very high up in the A tier, maybe low S tier, but Anathemas is a really nice item because a lot of the time in solo queue, everyone will just, they'll draft horribly, and then they'll just say like, oh, we have 4 AD, we just need 1 AP, and then they'll lock 1 AP, and then you can just stack all the armor items you want, and then you can pop Anathemas on their 1 AP threat, and then you can just stack armor, and you don't have to worry about building an AP item. For its price, it's insanely good. 30% damage reduction for only 2,500 gold is really good. It also reduces their tenacity, so if you notice like, hey, this guy bought a Merc Dreads, all of a sudden he no longer has a Merc Dreads into a Cassante, which is very, very strong. Titanic Hydra, D tier, because you don't need AD. It also scales off your HP, and most of the time you are building Gargoyles and Frozen Heart, very common items on Cassante, which give no HP, which don't add to the passive. It costs a lot for stuff you don't need. This is just more damage, and if you go a resist item, you get damage. But then by going resists, you get resists and damage. But if you go damage item, you don't get resists and you get mediocre damage. I think Titanic Hydra is just awful. The price is a lot. The active isn't even good, and I would almost never buy this item. Knight's Vow. I would put this item A tier or maybe low S tier. I really, really like this item. The thing is with Knight's Vow is when you fall behind, you can just be a support, and you can go for low economy items, and Knight's Vow being only 2.3, 2.2 gold, 2.3, 2.2 thousand gold, something like that. You can buy this cheap, and then you can just put it on your Fed 80 carry, and on top of your E shield, your W knockaway, and your R knockaway, you have so many tools to peel your enemy or allied carry they'll just almost never die with Knight's Vow. I really love this item. I love going it when I'm behind, and even if you're not behind and you're still pretty strong, you might not have to play the support role, so just keep that in mind. Maybe if you're ahead, you might not want to prioritize protecting your AD carry. It really just depends how far ahead they are. So for Deadman's play, I'm going to put it D tier just because the active isn't really good apart from like movement speed, which honestly you don't really need. That's like the only good part about Deadman's plate. The stats it gives you is really mediocre. It's not gold efficient at all, and the active slow isn't really needed since most of the time you're running Gauntlet anyway. And yeah, that's why Deadman's is D tier. Gargoyles S tier, really nice item. Pretty sure everyone knows this. It covers your main weakness of getting just bursted and all out. It gives you 120 resists, which scales so nice with your Q, W, and R, and your passive damage. Super good. Just allows you to sit in front of the enemy team, even if you're all out and you lose 85% of your resist, since you get a massive active shield. Abyssal Mask, I would put this S tier, not all the way up in Gargoyle tier level, maybe high A tier. But this item is really good, even though Cassante doesn't do a whole lot of magic damage. If you have like 2 AP damage threats on your team, this is really good, since it gives you it drains like 9 magic resist for every nearby enemy, which is really good for its price and for how much stats it gives you. I really like this item. I even build it even if I only have 1 AP carry, and I will still hover over it and it'll be like 1000 health unmade. It's like such an insane gold efficient item, and I really like it. It's one of the best MR options for Cassante. Thornmail, I put this high A tier. It's a really nice item. Only problem is you can't really build it against like every comp. The stats are really nice. I have tested rushing it. It's really nice into, Renekton or Olaf, who just rely on hitting you. You can maybe grab it first or second. But into comps that aren't really hitting you and just use spells, it doesn't do a whole lot. It's more of a situational item. But I think in the cases where they have like 3 auto attackers, it's really good. Thornmail is really nice to pick up on Cassante. I would put it very high up in the A tier. Locket, I don't think this is a good item. I think there are just many better items out there. It's cheap, yeah, but the active is kind of mediocre. You're pretty much just accepting your support. You're not going to be doing damage. I think Evenshroud is a better alternative, but you can go it if you really want to. But yeah, Gauntlet is S tier for sure. Really nice item. You just pretty much makes the enemies not be able to move. All those pesky Mach 20 Lilias and Gangplanks, they just automatically don't get to do that anymore. Most of the time. But yeah, this is a really nice item. You weave it in between every single Q, so they pretty much never move since your Q slows, and then you auto them, and then they're slowed again, and then you Q them again, and then they're slowed, and then you auto them, and they slowed, and then they can't move. And then you can just knock them. You pretty much just control everything your enemy does if you have Iceborn Gauntlet, which makes it really good. Divine Sunderer, I would put it in C tier, just because I used to build this item. I really liked building it, but the thing is, it gives no resists, and the AD is really meh. I could maybe move it up higher in the C tier, but I wouldn't recommend building this every game, unless on the very rare occasion that they lock lots of max health stackers like Cho'Gath or something. It could be acceptable, but honestly, I think you're better off just going Iceborn or any other mythic, to be honest. And that's high C tier. Sunfire, really nice. I love this item a lot. I think the only issue with this item, some of you may know I don't build this a lot of the time, is because this item is really volatile and situational is when I build it. So if the enemy team has lots of ranged, it wouldn't make sense to build a Sunfire and doing damage around you in a small circle, because obviously to get the max value out of this you would need lots of melee fighters, and that's when I build it. When there is like 3 or more melee fighters on the enemy team, that will all pile on me. This item is really good, and that's why I don't build it a lot of the time, is because the enemy team will be the enemy team will be more ranged favored. Hullbreaker, I'm gonna put it in B tier, low B tier, because this item is the only problem with this item. The build path is garbage. The stats are all right. You don't really need the extra AD though. If it would only be acceptable to build this if the enemy, enemy Yorick or Tryndamere or enemy team builds Hullbreaker and you need to match them. You can build it, sure, since you're not really going to be team fighting anyway. But if you build this item and you start team fighting and then you rely on the fact that, I'm just going to R them away and I'll get the resists, it's not worth it. Okay, this item is like 3,000 gold. And you might see the resists and think, holy, that's a lot. But I think this item is not good. It's not worth the gold, just because Cassante is a team fighter. He's not gonna be splitting. He doesn't do crazy amounts of damage to turrets like Set or Rengar. He only has like an auto attack reset and maybe a Sheen proc. He's a tank, he doesn't really kill turrets. No point to be split pushing, and to be honest, you should just be sitting with your AD carry if you're behind. I wouldn't build this item. Spirit Visage, I do believe it's getting buffed next patch. I'm going to put it in high A tier. This item is really nice to build in those situations where you have a Seraphine or Sona on your team. You just get so much shields, so much heals. It's a really nice all-rounded item for building against a magic resist or magic dealing team. I really love it because you get Omnivamp on your R, and then you shield with your E, and then you can apply shields to everyone else. And then on top of that, if you have a Seraphine, you get more heals from her, more shields from her. It's a really nice item to build if you have an enchanter on your team, and that's when I build it. But apart from that, if you don't have an enchanter, I would say it's maybe low A tier, but if you have an enchanter, then it's very high up A tier. Force of Nature, I hate to see this item get gutted so hard. This item's just terrible. I almost never build it unless the enemy team has like 4 magic resist or 4 magic dealing enemies. The only issue is that it costs way more than Abyssal Mask, and Abyssal Mask gives more AP. The only trade-off is Force of Nature gives movement speed, and I guess if you like movement speed, it's a good item to buy, but Abyssal Mask gives, if you're sitting in a team fight and you're draining 5 enemies, it gives you the same amount of resists as it would a fully stacked Force of Nature. So that's why this item is just not that good. Abyssal Mask is almost always better unless you have a full AD comp and you can't really accelerate any damage on Abyssal Mask. Then I guess you can go Force of Nature if they have like 3 AP or something. Randuin's Omen. I believe this is getting buffed next patch too, but I'm gonna put it high B tier. The problem with this item is that even though it got buffed plus 5 crit resist, a lot of ADCs build Gensus and whatnot, so it's a coin flip if their enemy ADC is gonna go Gensus or not. They're not even gonna crit. Most of the time you have a Gauntlet slow, so the active isn't good either. But yeah, this item needs to get reverted. I think the nerfs were a bit too harsh on it, but yeah, it's not really a good item. I'll build it occasionally if I really need to, but yeah, this item is B tier. Chemtank. Yeah, this item not really existent. It's pretty much just D tier. You'll only ever see me build it if I need to like run in and, you know, just run in and engage. I don't know, that's like the only thing it's good for. It's not even good. It just, even when I build it, it just doesn't feel good to build it. There's just so much better MR options. Yeah, this item isn't really good, to be honest. They need to buff it. Frozen Heart, very good item. I think it's really nice. The mana isn't really too needed on Cassante, but for if you fight for a long time, then it's a good option. The armor and the ability haste is really good for its cost. It's an all-rounded, pretty nice item. I would say it's middle of A tier. Can't go at every game, and the only downside is that usually you want it by the mid game where you're sitting in front of you're sitting in a team and you apply it to everyone. But if you go Frozen Heart right after Gargoyles, you'll have no health. You'll just be sitting on your mythic health or Sunfire or whatever, and the Gargoyle shield scales with health, so usually you always want to go a health item after building Gargoyles, so you know you can buffing up that shield. But the thing is, Frozen Heart doesn't have a health, so usually you end up going at 4th or 5th, but I still think it's a really, really good item. Evenshroud, I would put it high up in the A tier. I love this item a lot. For those of you who don't know, I build it pretty much every time I'm behind, because I press tab and I see my Ashe is like 5 and 2, and I'm sitting 0 and 3 in a tough lane. I'll just go Evenshroud. I get the spike is so early, there's almost like no reason not to go this item. I might even argue it's a S tier, but this item is so good. You pretty much apply 10% increased damage to everyone in a fight, and I mean everyone, because all of your abilities except your E have CC, so you're guaranteed to CC someone at least once in a fight, and then the active applies the debuff to everyone around the person who got CC'd. Not only that, but if you get CC'd, everyone around the person that CC'd you gets affected with the debuff. So this item is so good. Even if you're useless and you die immediately, you're gonna get CC'd, or you will CC someone, and then your team will just melt them because they take 10% increased damage. There's no reason not to go this item. I love it so much. I'm gonna put it low S tier, high A tier, because obviously you don't want to build it every game. There will be some cases where, you know, you want to go Jak'Sho or Gauntlet, but this is a really nice alternative for those games where you're behind, you're not really going to be the carry, and there's maybe some lot of ranged champions, so you don't benefit off of Jak'Sho either. Radiant Virtue, I'm going to put it in C tier because you ult someone, you get more health, and you increase health on allies. Unless you're ulting on the spot, it's not really good. Because most of the time you're going to ult someone out of the pit, or out of a fight, like an ADC or something, and that healing is going to be wasted because you want to heal everyone around you. And if you ult on the spot, yeah, you can heal everyone around you, but there's just so much better options, to be honest. Cleaver, I'm putting this in C tier. I don't care. This item, I know a lot of you like it. I don't, just because you don't need the armor shred. You have like a mini Fiora passive on your passive, and it scales with resists. You have true damage scaling with resists. Let me repeat that. You have true damage scaling with resists. Just go any resist item and you'll get a portion of Black Cleaver's passive, or not a portion of Black Cleaver's passive, but you get more damage. And the downside for Cleaver is that you waste the AD, since you don't really need the extra 50 AD. The ability haste and the health are nice, sure, but you don't get any resists. Once again, really not good. The movement speed and the armor shred is really not good. I mean, it's alright if you want maybe for like 6th item and they have like 4 tanks, I could see this item being good, but I would just generally avoid this item. If you are going to build it, I would build it very last. Definitely don't build it early on into the game because you need resists to lower your Q cooldown and heighten up your W resist, actual resists, like how much damage you resist on your W scales with resists. So if you go Cleaver, you don't get those scalings. Fimbulwinter, I'm going to put it B tier, somewhere like that. I don't really like building this item because most of the time I go biscuits and you need to go tier. K'Sante doesn't have like a crippling mana issue, but he does have, he could use the extra bit of mana, but tier is just too overboard. I don't like building tier on him. It could be okay. Some people like doing it, but me personally, I don't like it. The shield is really nice since you immobilize people every couple seconds or so, and you get some bonus health, especially if you go Frozen Heart, since this gives you mana, or no, it gives you health off your mana. So you're not really stacking a whole lot of mana apart from Frozen Heart, and the shield is nice. It could, and I'll put it high up in B tier, but I don't really like building the item a whole lot. Heartsteel, no. D tier, never build it because no. You know what? Fine. I'll put it middle of D tier. The item's not good. It doesn't give you resists. It's terrible building early because you, as K'Sante, you need resists to get into the game, and because you need resists to get in the game, for your Q cooldown to be lowered, if you go a health item like Heartsteel, you're going to be sitting on a 4-second Q, which is terrible for like 20 minutes, and trust me, you don't want that. You can build it second if you want, but I'm not building this item, to be honest. D tier. Death Dance, C tier, low C tier, high D tier. I don't like this item. This item's not good. 45 armor is 900 gold worth of... Yeah, 45 armor is 900 gold worth of armor. You are spending 3.3 thousand gold for 900 gold worth of armor, and then attack damage you don't need, and then a passive, yeah, you don't get one shot, but you already have an ability that doesn't let you get one shot, which is your W. And plus, after you tanking a whole ton of damage, you're just going to take true damage. And then you can't resist, and your W won't block the true damage. So why would you want to go this item? It's not good. You're just going to burn, and then you can't one-shot someone either, unless you're really fed. But if you're really fed, you're not going to build this item. I mean, maybe you can, but I don't know. This item's not good. Don't build it. Warmogs, D tier. As I said with Heartsteel, it's you need resist to get in the game. Maybe 4th or 5th item, I could see it being built. There are some cases where it could be good, but if you need a health option, I would just go for Anathemas. Much better. Warmogs is... It's nice in some cases. Yeah, I'll put it in C tier. And yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna thin out or go through some of the completed list. Everything looks pretty good here. Yep. I would maybe put Randuin's above Fimbulwinter. I'll put Anathema's above Frozen Heart. Let's see here. Actually, maybe I should bump Randuin State now. Maybe I'll put Knight's Vow. Yeah, because Knight's Vow is very situational. Yeah, Knight's Vow is very situational. You don't want to go to every game. When you're behind, it's a good option. I'll put it A tier. I'll put Knight's Vow in A tier, but it's still like really good. In the cases where you need to build it for your AD carry, it's S tier by far, but on your average game, I would put it A tier. I don't think Frozen Heart is this low on A tier, but I don't know what else to put at the bottom of A tier. But apart from that, I think this is the full completed tier list for K'Sante items. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and yeah, peace.